Have we gone live with the link then? Anne? Oh.
Yes, Chairman, I'm just waiting for our broadcast team to indicate whether we can go live. We are live now, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Welcome to an online meeting of the Royal Borough and Kensington Chelsea's Licensing Subcommittee. Thank you for attending. I'm Councillor Charles Williams. I will be chairing this meeting. It is being held via Microsoft Teams. It's also being streamed live. The committee for this hearing comprises myself, Councillor Janet Evans and Councillor Pat Healy. Councillors, can you please introduce yourselves?
Janet Evans, nothing to declare.
Pat?
Good morning, Chair. I'm Councillor Pat Healy from Dalgarno Ward, and I also have nothing to declare.
Yes, I would add I also have no interest to declare. We are joined remotely by Laura McGahn from the Council's licensing team, our legal officer Lindsay Le Mesurier, and also with us is our committee officer Anne Wright, who will be monitoring our connections, supported by Gareth Ebenezer, Yasmin Jama and Esme Shari. Before we start the hearing for this case, just a few ground rules. Please keep your microphones on mute until you're invited to speak, and please make sure mobile phones are on silent. Do keep your camera on when not speaking if you wish, unless we run into connection problems. Please note that the Microsoft Teams chat function is not monitored, so please do not use it. In addition, this is a public meeting and the chat would not be seen in the live stream. Everyone should have received the procedure for this meeting regarding the use of cameras and how to connect back if you lose connection. We are considering before us today two applications to grant licenses, one for 295297 Brompton Road and the second for 299301 Brompton Road SW3. The quorum for the committee is 2, and there is always the possibility that I may lose connection temporarily during this broadcast. I'm therefore nominating Councillor Evans to be appointed as substitute chair. Members, will you confirm this nomination is seconded? Councillor Healy, do you second that?
Yes, I second that.
Thank you very much. I can confirm that Councillor Evans is appointed as substitute chair. Thank you, colleagues. For clarity, I will outline the procedure of the meeting, which, as already mentioned, has been circulated. Firstly, the licensing officer, Ms. McGahn, will give a brief outline of the applications. Could you confirm that you are here, Ms. McGahn?
Good morning, Chair. I am here. It will be Paul Phelan who will be giving an outline this morning. Thank you very much.
And then I will ask the applicant's legal advisor, Mr. Thomas O'Malley, to present his submission. He will have up to a maximum of 10 minutes to do so. He's also joined by his client, Ashley Morrison, who may be able to assist members should they have questions. Could you both confirm your attendance, please?
Councillor, I confirm my attendance. Thank you.
Yeah, and Ashley Morrison from Tribeca Holdings and Aidan Brooks from Tribeca Holdings in attendance as well.
Then questions will be asked by members of the committee, and our legal officer may ask questions, and then the objectors may ask questions of the applicants. Next, the objectors, Mr. Donald Cantoris-Toro and Ms. Burlow, will present their objections, and again you have up to 10 minutes each. I think could Mr. Toro confirm his attendance?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning to everyone.
And thank you. And I think we're still waiting for Ms. Burlow. Then the questions will be asked by members of the committee to the objectors, and the applicant may ask questions to the objectors. And then we will ask our legal officer, Ms. Mazurier, if she has any further questions. And we will ask the governance team to see if there are issues have been raised that we need to consider. There was no cross-examination. Sorry, we do allow cross-examination. As I said, you may ask applicants may ask questions of the objectors and vice versa, but there will be no summing up. The meeting will end, and then we will take decisions separately on each of the applications. And obviously, if anyone is talking about these, the matters before us, and the matters refer solely to one of the premises, I think they should make that clear. Without any further delay, could I ask Mr. Phelan to summarise the two applications?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Two applications have been submitted by 295 to 303 Brompton Road Limited for the grant of a premises licence at 295 to 297 Brompton Road, London, SW3, and 299 301 Brompton Road, London, SW3, respectively. Both applications initially sought the sale by retail of alcohol both on and off the premises from 10 a.m. until midnight, Monday to Sunday, the provision of late night refreshment indoors from 11 p.m. until midnight, Monday to Sunday, with opening hours between 10 a.m. and 12:30 a.m. Monday to Sunday. A full copy of each application can be found on pages 6 to 17 of the appropriate reports. On the 11th of December 2020, Mr. Thomas Mayloin, the solicitor representing today's applicant, submitted a revised summary of the activities and timings sought for both premises. In these revised summaries, the applicant reduced the hours sought for both late night refreshment indoors and the sale by retail of alcohol on and off the premises by 1 hour Monday to Sunday, with a closing time of 11:30 p.m. In addition to the changes to the licensable activities, the applicant has also proposed several additional steps in which to promote the licensing objectives. A copy of the revised summary can be found as part of the additional bundle of today's papers. The application for 295 to 297 Brompton Road, London, initially attracted 7 representations, including one from the Furlough Owners and Leaseholders Association. I can confirm that the Furlough Owners and Leaseholders Association withdrew their representation following receipt of the revised. To this application can be found on pages 3 to 4, with full copies attached to Appendix D on pages 20 to 26 of the appropriate report. The application for 299 to 301 Brompton Road attracted 6 representations. A summary of these representations specific to this application can be found on pages 3 and 4, with full copies attached to Appendix D, pages 20 to 25 of the appropriate report. I can confirm that both applications did attract a representation from the Council's Environmental Health Noise team, but this was subsequently withdrawn following the applicant's revised submission. Council records indicate that no complaints or temporary event notices have been received in the preceding 24 months period in respect of both premises. That concludes the summary of this application. I'll leave it there for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Phelan. Right, would Mr. Mayloin like to speak on behalf of the applicant then?
Thank you very much for that introduction. Thank you very much, Councillor Williams. Obviously, we are taking both applications together, which I think is the sensible approach, because both applications mirror each other in their entirety. You also will have noted that both applications, upon receipt of the representations from not only the Environmental Health Officer and the Residents Association, and also some individual residents, that application has been amended. And it seemed very clear to us as the applicants that the primary concern of those that raised objections was in relation to how the premises themselves may operate, in particular in relation to alcohol being served ancillary to food. And so you will have seen in our amended conditions, right up at the very top at condition number 1, we confirm that alcohol shall not be sold on the premises otherwise than to persons taking table meals there and for consumption by such a person as an ancillary to his meal. So in effect, both premises, if you were minded to grant, could only operate in effect as a restaurant or as a cafe where alcohol would be sold with food. This would obviously negate any customers that would go there simply to consume alcohol. You will have noted from the documentation that was sent, in particular, the document that is entitled Brompton Cross, which gives an introduction to the applicant, who are the landlords, the owners of the Brompton Cross estate. You will have noted within that document that the estate has spent over £300 million on the estate. It is very much, and I emphasise that it is very, very much in the interests of the landlord to ensure that the estate thrives and that it is bettered. And in this regard, we would only be looking for tenants that would fit in to that vision for the Brompton Cross estate. And you'll see rather helpfully the types of premises that we would be looking to attract for both of these sites, which is at the last page of the Brompton Cross document. And a quick glance at those premises, I think we'd all agree that none of them would or should cause concern, hopefully either to the council or to local residents. Indeed, dare I say it, that I suspect that if any of those were to move into the area, it would be welcome. In terms of the objections themselves, clearly a lot of what is raised by the residents relates to premises that are already operating in the area. And I must say that the applicant is equally as concerned about such premises as they are. It is, of course, correct to say and to remind those that raise objections and that are concerned about other licensed premises, that it is of course open to them to start a review of those premises if they are causing issues. But clearly the issues that have been experienced by the local residents, we would suggest can be and are rightfully addressed by the proposed conditions of the applicant. So not only would alcohol be sold ancillary to a table meal, but you also will have noted, for example, the specific conditions relating to noise. And this is the second strand of concern, I think, that the residents raise. And I would ask the committee to look in relation to suggested condition 9. We suggest that the premises should not be used under the terms of this licence until they have been insulated so as to prevent transmission of excessive airborne or impact sound to neighbouring residential dwellings. The insulation work should be installed in accordance with details submitted to and approved in writing by the Council's Director for Environmental Health and shall therefore thereafter be maintained to the same standard. The conditions also go on to include specific hours that rubbish and refuse may be collected, and in relation to deliveries. And of course you will have seen the usual conditions relating to a telephone number being available and notices being displayed at the premises, reminding patrons that it is a residential area and they should leave the premises quickly and quietly. As you've already heard, on the back of these further suggested conditions and the amended hours, the Environmental Health Officer, who raised an objection to both applications, has withdrawn. You will have noted that there is no representation received from the Metropolitan Police Service, and you will also have noted that upon receipt of the amended application, that the Furlough Owners and Leaseholders Association have also withdrawn their representation. I would suggest that the conditions as proposed are proportionate and are what would be considered necessary, not only to address the licensing objectives, but also to address the concerns that have been raised by the residents in their letters to the council. I have received and I've noted the document which is entitled Draft Conditions, which was sent by your officers, and contained within that, obviously there are a number of conditions. In fact, the majority of those conditions are reflected in the amended application that I sent to yourselves. I think that in terms of proportionality and in terms of what is necessary, I would urge the council, if you're minded to grant the application, that it is granted on the terms that we sought in relation to our amended conditions. And the reason why I say that is that there are some conditions contained within the draft pool of conditions that may cause us some difficulty. And I point really primarily to conditions 22 to 26 of those draft conditions. And I appreciate that they're not conditions that are being put forward as such. They are conditions that are being suggested may be looked at by the committee this morning. And in the round, the reason why those conditions cause me a concern is at this moment in time, we do not know what the position is in relation to tables and chairs that may or may not be placed on the public highway immediately outside either or both of these premises. The committee will readily appreciate that if a tenant were to seek tables and chairs outside, that would be part of a planning application, and that in itself would have its own process in terms of the hours that those tables and chairs may be placed there, the numbers of tables and chairs that may be there at any one time, or indeed if any tables and chairs could be there at all. It will depend on the width of the pavement. So a condition, for example, that would exclude customers from having a drink outside, or that if alcohol was an off sale, which of course it would be in the case of tables and chairs, that it would have to be ancillary to a takeaway meal. I think that the way around all of this is either the committee could simply exclude them if you're minded to grant, or it could simply have the words that subject to if a license were granted by the local authority to permit tables and chairs, then certain conditions would take force. And to be absolutely clear, if there were an application in the future for tables and chairs, and if there were customers sat at those tables and chairs, it would of course remain the case that any alcohol sold would be ancillary to a substantial table meal at those tables and chairs, and that alcohol would be sold and supplied by waiter or waitress service. And the second point in relation to those conditions is in relation to the having a meeting twice a year. It is suggested at condition 24. I would suggest that at this stage is not proportionate and is not necessary. You will have seen in our conditions, which I think are reflected in the draft conditions, that we have already accepted the fact that a telephone number would be available, and we would suggest to the committee that would suffice, and that would be proportionate to the application that is before you this morning. So unless I can assist you further, those are my submissions. You have heard that both Mr. Morrison and also Mr. Brooks, who is the CEO of the company, are also in attendance, and I know that they would be more than happy to answer any questions that you or in fact the residents or other members of the committee may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, first thing I'd say is that I have not seen the this Brompton Cross vision document which you referred to, and possibly rather than having it circulated and I don't know what's gone wrong and an adjournment, it might be helpful if Mr. Morrison or you could explain what their plans are for the premises. Because in the original application there was no sort of supporting document.
Yes, sir. So I think it's probably best for me to hand over to Mr. Morrison to explain what the vision is for the estate on behalf of the landlords.
Good morning, everyone. This is Ashley Morrison from Tribeca Holdings. I'm a director at the company and have been so for 10 years. Tribeca, just to give you a bit of background, is a family-owned business and started investing in Brompton Cross circa 10 years ago, really with a vision of promoting and improving this particular London village to the best it can be. Over the past 10 years, we have redeveloped with support from RBKC, the Chanel store on the corner of Draycott Avenue and Walton Street, through to the new 8,000 square foot Dalesford store on Sloane Avenue. We are trying to create a village here, albeit a high-end village, and within that village we are conscious and are aware that we need a blend of retailers. We need fashion, we need homewares, we need butchers, we need bakers, and we're being told by our tenants that we also need to increase the F&B within this area to support those retailers who, even before the pandemic, were competing against, an increase in online sales. I think what I'd also like to say is within the portfolio that's been built up, we have over 10 years acquired 18 freeholds. We've increased the shop fronts to about 39 shop fronts. But I think more importantly for your objectors is we have circa 18 residential apartments which we lease within the area. So I think, in everything we are doing, we're trying to improve, we're trying to promote, and we're trying to better the Brompton Cross village for all stakeholders, whether that's retailers, whether that's restaurants, whether that's homeware brands and residential tenants. To that end, we are also working separately with RBKC on a potential public realm project for the small area of Draycott Avenue between Don Place and Walton Street to look at semi-pedestrianising that to create a kind of centre to Brompton Cross and to improve the well-being and public realm and dwell time of this particular location. Specifically on Brompton Road, we look after children's wear brands like Il Guffo, Tartan et Chocolat, as well as fashion brands Sandro and René Cavilla. And the main reason for seeking this premises license is that even prior to the pandemic, Bimber and Lola, both Bimber and Lola and Zadig and Voltaire have been in the location 10 years, had seen their sales reducing because of, competition from online sales. And I guess with input from our own retailers, we're looking to maximise the appeal of reletting these 2 units, because both of these tenants are going to be vacating these units by April next year. And really the advice from our advisors at CBRE, even our local retail tenants, even our local residential tenants are saying, we would love to have more F&B in this particular location. And I think, I'm sorry, Chairman, you haven't got the presentation pack that we sent, but we're really looking to try and secure either 1 or 2 brands for this pitch, which could range from a Gale's Bakery through to a kind of Italian restaurant brand like a Chuck's, or an all-day offering like a Ladere, where you can go have a salad and maybe a glass of wine with your meal. The ladies who are shopping here, the families who are shopping here, want to be able to go into the stores and then afterwards have a nice meal with a glass of Prosecco or a glass of wine with that. We do want to have evening trade from these premises. Other brands who are within the borough, like Granger & Co., who are up at Westbourne Grove and also Pavilion Road, would be an ideal candidate for this for this location. It serves breakfast, it serves lunch, it's a nice contemporary, sophisticated offer, but I think importantly is at a price point which is also inclusive. And really what we're trying to do in a weakening retail environment is simply bring footfall and change use of shops into more popular uses that really, people are demanding, whether it's retailers, customers, or residential dwellers.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful. Right.
So the only other point I would make is we're here for, whilst we're a family business, we are long-term stakeholders in this area. We're not a faceless institution. We're not fly-by-night. We're here for the long term. We're here to improve the area, and we're here to stay. And just to put that drive that point home, my principal, who owns the business, lives 2 minutes around the corner, so is massively, our interests are massively aligned with all local stakeholders.
Right.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, this is Donald. May I come in for a second?
No, I think what we have to, the next thing is the committee will ask questions, then you will have some opportunity to ask questions of Mr. Malloran and Mr. Morrison. So if you just wait a few minutes, please. So my first question is, you said it might be 1 or 2 tenants. Now, if it were 1, what would be the likely number of covers in this single restaurant?
Probably 60.
Right. Okay, thank you. And you will be aware that obviously the objectors, which really, they say there are problems from existing premises which may or may not be part of your estate, they are understandably concerned that this will exacerbate these problems. I mean, what reassurance can you give them that this won't happen?
I just want to be absolutely clear. We're not trying to achieve a premises license here, which is for stand-up drinking, lounging, premises like Eclipse on Walton Street, which, we understand a lot of local residents have issue with. We're trying to create here a pleasant restaurant surroundings, which will be an all-day offer, which trades hopefully for breakfast at lunchtime and into the evening. This should be much more akin to a Daphne's, to a Chuck's, who again, Chuck's is an Italian restaurant who are up on Westbourne Grove. And I think all we're trying to create here is a kind of, a nod towards what maybe Cadogan are doing on Pavilion Road. It's not an intense use that we're looking for these two premises, and it may end up being that one of them. I mean, my principal, my CEO, Aidan Brooks, had a meeting with Aldo Capolo, the hairdressers, a week ago who like this location. What we're just trying to do is maximise the appeal of reletting these shops, which are going to come vacant in April.
Good morning, everybody. This is Aidan Brooks here, the owner of Tribeca Holdings. Thank you. I'll just give it. Actually, I think it's covered our points very well. But if just give a quick summary of our interest in the location. I know the location very well. I live on Edgerton Crescent for more than 10 years. 2 minutes from this location. On the corner, as you know, there's the Hourglass pub that has operated there for many years. That's not part of our estate. And with every property we've put together over this period, in the entire 10 years, we've never once had an issue with a neighbour or the borough with anything through from planning applications to licensing. Like as an example, the Dalesford store we did on Sloane Avenue, which is run impeccably, as you know, by the Banford family, and that is the type of quality that we want for the neighbourhood. I feel ourselves, and even as neighbours around the corner, is that what Brompton Cross is lacking is a proper village feel. And I see ourselves on a Saturday morning, you might have to walk to the King's Road or Pavilion Road now, that has dramatically improved because of Cadogan's ability to be able to recreate that outdoor space, ensuring in good collaboration with RBKC, and has worked very successfully, I think, for the whole borough. In Brompton Cross, the issue is that, unfortunately, and COVID has maybe accelerated the issue, is that every week now retail tenants are failing, and what is lacking on the other side then is proper amenities like a butcher's, bakery, and also places where families can go to have a coffee or to have a drink in the evenings. I know well the issues on Brompton Road. I know it. I hear it's 3 o'clock in the morning with fast cars and this and that, and it drives us mad like everybody else. But as far as licensing is concerned, is that none of those premises are within our holding. On the other side of the road, where you have O'Bain and you have the old brasserie, which is now going to be part of one of the Caring Group, same owners as Daphne's, Daphne's has been in the neighbourhood for 55 years and is super successful. We really just want to create something here that is in addition to the neighbourhood. We have a substantial amount of residential in the neighbourhood, and we're extremely mindful of them, and we would never do anything to upset the neighbours or the adjacent other retail stores, because we feel that Brompton Cross has fallen behind. Like big units like Stella McCartney, which I think is owned by the RBKC, has closed recently. Bibendum obviously does very well on the corner and is the flagship for the whole neighbourhood. And there's a lot more to be done down there, but for a neighbourhood like Brompton Cross and SW3, it's really looking average at the moment, in my view. And we have regular meetings with your highways and with the councillors in relation to public realm to try and improve it at our cost. And we're progressing that. So we're here for the long haul. We're very mindful of the neighbours. We're very mindful of the adjacencies and what we can do to help and improve the neighbourhood over a long period. But we feel that retail is definitely slipping in the neighbourhood, and we need to be able to offer our new tenants the ability to have a drink in a very confined and regulated situation, but at the same time to be able to get life into the neighbourhood. And that's really our plan here. We have no interest whatsoever anything to do with a pub and music and stand-up drinking. That's just not what we want. Thank you for the time.
Well, right. I'm going to turn to my fellow panel members shortly. Just to say, we won't decide until at the conclusion of the hearing whether we're going to grant a license, but we will have a discussion a little later on about possible conditions, whether we do. And obviously I noted what Mr. Maravin's just said. So I'd like to ask Councillor Evans, do you have any questions of the applicants?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you both for your presentations. I'm happy that you will agree to put in insulation work. That should help. I wanted to talk about the price points that you discussed, because you have said that you will appeal to different ends of the market. Am I correct? Because there's quite a bit of affordable housing around there, and some is going in by the station, as you know, if it gets passed. And I'd like to make sure that, you know, people who attend the state school, which is right around the corner, that their mums can have a cup of coffee, and that it will appeal to both ends of the market. Can you assure us of this?
That's the goal. As I said, we're trying to be as inclusive as possible. One of the brands who is growing quite quickly in London, as you've probably seen in a number of London villages, is someone like Gale's Bakery, and that's a brand that I think appeals to all elements of society. It's certainly a brand we use in our home up in Queen's Park, and is inclusive and inclusive to all levels. You can buy bread, you can have a coffee, you can have a meal there, you can later on in the evening get a glass of wine with a meal, but it is a price point which is all inclusive. And I think the reason why we've kind of submitted 2 premises licenses is actually because there's a lot of boutique and artisan type operators out there. Further down the Fulham Road, Colette has opened and does very well, and I think we will be mindful of that, because we're trying to bring as service lots of different parts of the borough within this area.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Now the other question I wanted to ask, because it's a bit of an unusual request here, is that this is being made by the owner of the of the premises. So how will you ensure that the licensing objectives are maintained by whom your tenants are?
Okay, so maybe probably best for me to jump in here. So the way that this normally works, and certainly this is how Cadogan do it, and I act for Cadogan. The terms of their lease will be quite specific. There'll be a section within the lease which will deal with the premises license and the duties and responsibilities that is expected of the tenants. And obviously, if there's any breach of that, then the lease could be forfeited. So there's an added level of security, so to speak, in terms of compliance, because not only if there was to be a rogue operator, not only would they be dealing with the local authority, but also dealing directly with the landlords themselves.
Thank you. That will be all.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Councillor Healy.
Yes, Chair, thank you. I'd like to ask about conditions. Specifically, one of the proposed conditions that we have put forward is about contact with the local residents. And I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, Mr. O'Marlin, but you said that you think your condition about having a telephone number available is sufficient. In our experience, one of the things that does get residents on board when they are initially quite suspicious about new licenses being granted is it the people applying for a license are willing to have regular contact with local residents. It does actually break down barriers. And I would like to know whether you are prepared to accept our condition on that issue.
I suppose if I do it in reverse, as you've heard, we are an open door in terms of having meetings and having an open dialogue with residents. What concerns me is that the wording of this condition is quite specific insofar as the premises license holder must accommodate meetings twice a year. And obviously any breach of a condition is in itself a criminal offence. In my experience, most licensed premises within the borough, this would not be a requirement. It would be a requirement for premises that, for example, either operated later into the night or were more alcohol-led. I would suggest that this in itself would be quite unusual for the type of premises that will be operating at this particular site. The other thing that I would add is that from experience, premises that would be regarded as low risk, and I would suggest that both of these premises within policy would be low risk. And I think that's reflected by the fact that the environmental health officer is satisfied that you would not expect the necessity to have meetings every 6 months. And when such conditions are placed on a license, I think it is fair to say, and I think your officers will support this, is that the meetings, although they might be arranged, that the reality is that nobody actually goes to them. For premises like these, I think that if you have premises like, for example, Eclipse, I think that is the type of premises that needs to have and should have regular meetings with local residents. I think that if you are talking about a premises that is Gale's Bakery, I would suggest that would not be proportionate for that style of operation. And that if there was a particular concern, I would suggest that it's more likely that the residents who had that concern should quite rightfully telephone and speak to the designated premises supervisor and have a one-to-one rather than a meeting. And the final thing I would say on that is, I think it is important to note that the Residents Association that had objected, i.e. the Thurlow Owners and Leaseholders Association, were content with the proposed conditions, and that was not a condition that they were seeking. And ordinarily, those types of conditions tend to be attended by residents associations rather than individuals.
Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further questions, Councillor Healy? No?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mazuri, do you wish to ask any questions of the applicants?
Not at this stage, Chair, thank you.
Okay, so we've only the one objector at the moment. So if you'd like to ask your questions, you'll have the chance to address us in a minute. Hello?
Me?
Yes.
Donald?
Yes, Donald. Do you have any questions of the applicants?
Yes, I'd like to know if the owners of Opera are the Tribeca holding.
Right, that's a straightforward
Could you repeat
question.
that, please?
I am asking if the owners of the Opera restaurants in Brompton Road, the one next to Elan and the one just next to where the kitchen company was, are owned by Tribeca. Do you own those premises?
No, we don't. Sorry, can you just repeat that? Speak a little bit louder. The premises where? On Brompton Road?
Yes, where there are two restaurants called, one is called Opera in Brompton Road next to Elan, and the other one is called Opera next to where the kitchen shop was. Small are they owned by you?
No, they are owned by South Kensington Estates.
So not by Tribeca?
No. They're owned by a company called South Kensington Estates.
So what we are discussing really today is those two licenses, really, correct?
Sorry?
Are we discussing today those two licenses?
Sorry,
so maybe if I just jump in here. So just to be absolutely clear, Donald, what we're discussing is an application for two new licenses for numbers 295 to 297 and 299 to 301 Brompton Road. Both of those sites at the moment are currently retail, so they've never had licenses and they've never operated as restaurants or anything to do with F&B before. Does that clarify your question?
Oh yes, of course, because I didn't know that Tribeca was behind this, and I know Tribeca has been an excellent company and doing excellent things. I'm just sorry for this. I was very confused because I've been opposing a lot the renewal of the license of this Opera restaurant, which has been now named something else, because it had brought in the last 2 years too much noise and so on. So.
I mean, the Opera is some distance away from the place we're talking about.
No, I know. I mean, this is totally different. I'm very sorry that was not clear to me in those communications I have received. I am just worried who does these licenses get to be given to, and if it's the Tribeca people, I have no concern on them because I think they are excellent. My concern is
that's very kind of you, and it's, shall we say, music to my ears.
Chair, may I interject?
The concern was who granted the license, for instance, to Caramel, which created all these.
We're talking about different premises. Mrs. Lamazure, do you have something to say?
In light of this conversation, I just wanted to clarify whether the objector maintains his objection in relation to this application, or is he withdrawing it?
Withdrawing completely. I have nothing against that because I know the track record of Tribeca. What I don't know is the track record of the people who granted the license to Caramel and the to Opera, which now has changed the name. So that's the only concern I have.
So just to be clear, you have no objections in relation to 295 to 297 and 299 to 301 Brompton Road. Your objections related to completely different premises. Is that correct?
Yes, my objections are completely to different premises, and those two licenses, these are the ones we are discussing today. The new applicants, the new conditions which have been accepted to the applicants, for me is fine. I know the track record of them. I think the issue here is to know who owns those premises and who the council grant the licenses. That is what is important.
I think
as
Mr.
far as
Phelan,
I'm concerned, Tribeca is okay for me.
We got some procedural. As you said, Mrs. Phelan, do you want to say something?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to offer Donald the opportunity to speak with me after the hearing to discuss the premises that he's referring to that aren't part of this hearing. I can contact him more or less straight after we're finished here, if that's okay with him.
Yeah, better this afternoon because I have another call meeting at 11 o'clock, so or Monday if you want, sir. But I'd really like to talk to you about that, if you don't mind.
Can I just ask guidance from our legal advisor? If Ms. Donald is withdrawing his objections, basically, I mean, he's welcome to listen, but he should sort of leave the meeting, I think, or not take any further part. Is that correct?
It's fine with me. I can leave now. It really helps.
Sorry, Lindsay, yeah?
That's fine. sorry, if the objector is withdrawing his objection, that's fine. My only concern is that we still have the other objection, which hasn't been withdrawn.
Well, indeed, but
I'm wondering whether we can take. I'm just wondering whether we can just take a 5-minute break just to consider how to go forward with this, or whether you're happy to proceed on the basis of the other objection.
Right. Okay. Yes, I'm very happy to have a 5-minute break. So we'll adjourn for 5 minutes, and I think the members of the panel advisors will leave this meeting and go into the other meeting.
Thank you. I'll see you back in the pre-meeting.
Okay, thanks.
So do I stay in this meeting, the other meeting?
If you could just stay just until we come back into the meeting, give us 5 to 10 minutes and we'll be back.
Okay, perfect. Hello? Hello?
Chairman, you're on mute.
No, this is Donald.
I'm here.
Right. Is Councillor Healy present?
She's still on hold at the moment. I will check when she's with us. 1 second. Chairman, I've sent Councillor Healy a message. She still seems to be on hold, which means that she hasn't rejoined the meeting.
Right, we better wait a few minutes.
Yes, if just give her a couple of minutes. Councillor Healy, are you with us now?
Yes, I am. Sorry, I thought I was. But
Right.
No,
Good.
thank you. I just removed you from the meeting and recalled you, but you're here now. Thank you.
And Councillor Evans, are you here?
Yes.
Right, okay, and I assume the applicants and advisor never left.
We're still here. We're still here.
Good, fine. So my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, advisors, is that as Mr. Cantovitz-Tora has withdrawn his objections, he takes no further part in the meeting. Is that correct?
I was told to wait. I'm still here.
Right, okay.
That's correct, yeah.
Right, okay, well, thank you for coming, but as I say, it was sort of your part in the proceedings is finished now. So if we can proceed I said that we would have a discussion about possible conditions. Just one further point to the question to the applicants. There were objectors mentioned a number of other premises where there have been problems, which I think on the other side of the Brompton Road, but quite close to these premises. Are you the landlords for any of these, such as ours?
No, sir, we're not.
No,
I have the map of our estate in front of me here, and I can confirm
music to my ears.
None of the, not a single premises that is mentioned in any of the letters of representation are we the landlords.
Fine. Thank you very much. That is very useful to know. Right, now we will turn to, and I mean, because I don't want to work simultaneously on multiple documents, Mr. Mann, I'd like to work entirely in terms of conditions from the one circulated by Mr. Mazurier, which obviously incorporates all those that you have offered. My understanding is that the only ones that you have concerns about are from 22 onwards, and you've already explained why you're not very keen on number 24, and we've heard what you've said on that. But turning to the other suggested conditions, which is 22, 23, 25, 26, 27, and 20.
And sorry, sir, sorry to cut across you, but we are happy with 27, 28.
I was going to say, I'd be slightly surprised.
22 and 22, 23, 24, 25, 26.
Right.
And it's not, and just emphasise, it's not that we have an issue with what those conditions seek to do. It's more that if there were an application by a tenant for tables and chairs, then of course I think the committee will readily identify that these conditions would present problems in order to have customers sat at tables and chairs authorised by the local authority, and so that is the concern.
Mr. O'Malley, could you not seek? Sorry, Chair, to interrupt. Could you not seek to vary the licence if we put those conditions on?
I would rather not. I would rather not vary, simply because the if a tables and chairs license is not granted, then these conditions are academic, frankly, because any off sales would have to be in sealed containers in any event, and all alcohol would have to be sold with food anyway. In terms of the tables and chairs, of course, I appreciate that it in itself is a planning matter. However, the licenses that are currently granted by RBKC will have conditions attached anyway, in terms of how many people, in terms of covers, how many tables and chairs, and what hours those tables and chairs may be permitted. And so I think that it might just confuse matters for us, or for a tenant, and to apply for tables and chairs and then have to go back to the committee to say, can we now use these tables and chairs in a way that is contrary to the specific. I mean, for example, condition 25. Because clearly people who are sat at a table outside, they're not having a takeaway meal. They're having a meal which is provided directly by the premises. It can be said to be takeaway. Likewise, condition 26, no alcohol or drinks in an open container. Well, clearly, if someone's sat at a table and they're served a glass of wine by a waiter, that's going to be an open container.
Yeah.
And then likewise, condition 22 would follow condition 26 in relation to the signage. And I think the issue with the number of smokers, obviously, we would be happy to have and any tenant is going to limit the number of smokers anyway. But if, for example, that permission is given for 2 tables with 8 seats, it may well be that we have you could have 8 people outside who are sat at tables who are smoking. So I just think there's difficulties. What I would add is that these premises, by necessity, when you look at the plans are fairly limited. There's no, it doesn't show, for example, where specifically within those plans where the bar or the service area may be, where the kitchen may be, etc., etc. And so whatever tenant takes this site we will be required to submit a variation. Now, at that stage, I would suggest that the variation could include additional conditions if that tenant proposed to apply for tables and chairs. I think that's a more satisfactory way of doing it, rather than making an application which seeks to remove conditions later on, which it could be argued were put on the licence by the committee following a hearing. That is a much higher hurdle to have conditions then removed than for a tenant to have conditions included. So what I suggest is that, because a variation will have to take place in the future in the event, that at that stage, if the intention of that tenant is to have tables and chairs outside, that we as the landlords will ensure that that application also includes conditions to address the outside area, and we can give that undertaking to the committee today.
Yes, but it won't appear on the premises license.
So whilst it won't appear on the premises license, it will of course appear in the minutes of today's hearing, and obviously, as a solicitor, for me to give an undertaking to you would be a very serious breach. That if our tenants were to come in and were to seek to have tables and chairs outside, that undertaking is given to you as a committee, that we as the landlords will ensure that suitable conditions are attached to any variation which is submitted. And as I say, a variation application will be necessary for whoever takes this site. But what we would like as landlords is to have that particular application quite separate. And as I say, it is a much higher hurdle for us, or for a tenant, to look to have conditions removed, when, as I say, they have been imposed by the committee in the first place following a hearing, and that concerns me.
Okay, I hear what you say. I mean, one possible way forward might be to keep some of these conditions, but to say that they only apply after a certain time, like after, say, 2100. I'm not suggesting any particular time.
I think there's a difficulty with condition 25, because it may not necessarily be the case that off sales of alcohol are necessarily, depending on the tenant, are necessarily with a table meal. For example, if we have a mixed use, which is retail as well as F&B.
Gales, yeah.
Yeah, you have Dalesford Organic, for example. It wouldn't necessarily be that someone would go to Dalesford and buy a takeaway meal as well as,
yeah.
And that's where the difficulty is. And then I think that, I mean, it's certainly, and I don't want to be churlish about this. I think that certainly I think that we could agree to a condition saying that, for example, notwithstanding if a tables and chairs license is granted by the local authority, then A, B, and C will take place. And to be absolutely clear, we won't be permitting people to, because we wouldn't be allowed to have people outside consuming alcohol anyway, and that is already covered by the suggested conditions in any event. Because if a customer would consume alcohol outside, it would be an off sale, and the suggested conditions already prohibit off sales unless they're in a sealed container.
Right. Right. So what you're saying, but condition 26 says it must be in a sealed container, but you were resisting that one. Are you referring to a different condition?
Sorry. To be absolutely clear, what we're saying is that clearly, if you had a customer outside who was having a meal and having a drink, that would be an off sale. So that would so to have that condition, we're happy to have off sales being limited to either sealed containers or to customers who are sat at a table licensed by the local authority and saluted to a substantial table meal. So they were the only two times where off sales could take place.
Okay, that makes sense. But I mean, if the sort of thing was limited, as I say, to 2000, 2100 hours, that might give the residents, particularly those who live above the premises, a bit more reassurance.
Well, I think the difficulty is that if we have a Dalesford type operator, we'd obviously want to have off sales up until when we close at 11 o'clock.
Okay, thank you. I think I've explored that as far as I can. Any other comments on conditions, possible conditions from fellow members or Mr. Mazurier?
Not from myself at this moment in time. I'm just having a quick look. So I think the other condition 20 was the one which said alcohol shall only be sold by a waiter or waitress service for consumption by customers seated at tables. So I think that ties in with what you're saying.
Yes, that's correct.
And apart from conditions 22 to 26, are you happy with all the other conditions as tweaked and amended by myself in the draft condition document? On each set, I mean, they're identical sets.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And it's not that I don't wish or mean to be pedantic. I'm just I'm always concerned that when conditions with the very best of intentions are included on a license, and then 9 months up the road we run into difficulties. And I think that with the best of intentions, it could be misleading to residents. And as I say, because we are going to be subject to a variation at a later stage for both of these sites, those specific conditions, which I think are quite, which very much relate to the operator, can and should be addressed at that stage.
Can I just ask another question, please, if you don't mind, Chair?
Yes.
The first one, condition 19, I just wanted to clarify that the words of alcohol are missing. Condition 19 says consumption of alcohol on the premises shall cease and the premises shall close to patrons, and all patrons shall be off the premises no later than 30 minutes after the end of permitted hours for the sale of, and it should say of alcohol by retail on the premises. I've missed out the words of alcohol. So just to note that omission. And also, I mean, obviously you haven't got a tenant in the premises yet, but do you envisage having delivery services, or obviously there's takeaways, but do you envisage having couriers and delivery services, or is that dependent on the tenant?
I suspect that there will be. Certainly following the pandemic, it is something that all F&B operators do, and I suspect that will continue.
Thank you. No further questions, Chair.
Right. Members of the panel, any further questions?
Not from me, Chair.
No, thank you. Janet, no. What
No, I'm reflecting.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Because I was proposing to close the meeting, and then the committee reassembles in about 10 minutes to deliberate.
Fine.
Okay. Right, then it's now 11:21. I propose, therefore, that to close the meeting. I thank the applicants and advisor for attending, and that the committee will reconvene in another place at 11:30.
Fine, thank you.
Okay.